Today we're going to check the plausibility of using a flame light to power a lantern on 2 AA's for 5 days. I'm doing this in response to the newest Adam Savage tested video, which I do like his videos. I very well enjoy prop building and fabrication stuff. But he took one of these lights and stuck it in an Amazon lantern holder and then patinaed it to make it look vintage. And it was a very well done process, and I actually quite enjoyed it. So he took one of these 120 volt flame lights and made it run on 3 volts. I'm not saying it's not possible, but we're going to try it. So I have an Edison base. We're going to screw this in and show that it works on 120. If you turn it upside down, that's the neat thing about these. He mentions that in his video. The flame goes up. It rotates with which way it's facing. So this is the bulb. He cracks it open right in here. Excuse me. Which is going to be the part. There we go. And then he gets the driver, which is down in the bottom there, and tests it to see what the power output is. Now the driver is driving this red and this white light. This is the dangerous part. This is why on his video, he did it off camera. Because potentially these 2 wires could electrocute you or severely hurt you. So we don't want that to happen. But I'll show you how to do it more safe than just sticking your fingers in here. So at the very bottom, way down in there, this takes 120 volts in and then outputs the voltage at a lower DC voltage generally. Since LEDs don't like AC, they flicker. So this is where you got to be careful. This could be live at 120 volts since I am screwing it back into a wall socket. So, and try and get my cord so I can get the connectors to be more upright. I have my meter on DC voltage. It's on auto ranging, so it'll adjust. Yep, the power coming out is 3.2, 3.1 volts. You probably can't see it because of the angle, so I'll do this. So hopefully you can see the screen now. I can't see the screen because of the glare. So I'm just going to block the glare from me because I have glare because I have lights over that way. And we'll touch the 2 contacts. And there you go, 3 point. It's a little hard because this is really flimsy material. 3.1. 3.2. So it is plausible. At the end of his video, he says that he built one for his house that him and his wife really like. And I do too. I do think it's a good video. That has been running for 5 days nonstop. I do have a hard time believing that part. But that's what we're going to try. So I'm going to go ahead and do the similar. I'm going to take out the driver and solder it in to where this runs on 2 AA batteries. He used energizers. I don't have any. I have brand new Duracells though. And we're going to stick it in a battery holder, and we're going to see if 2 AA batteries will make this thing light up for the better part of a week. Yeah. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to unscrew this and move the socket out of the way. And it looks like they have double back taped or glued the material to the base, because I need to get into here. So, see if I have see if this has a pop-off button. It does. That's good. I'm sure some people didn't know, but I wouldn't do it on a glass bulb. You're really likely to shatter it. Some of these just pop in, and you can pop them off. This part, though, is crimped in. If you look, you'll see all the little divots. This isn't going to come off easy. And right here, see a little wire? Yeah, that's how it's connected. They basically fold the wire over, press this cap on, crimp it, and then fold this wire over, press that cap on, and that's your connectors. Kind of cheap, but it functions, it works. So now we need to, without damaging it too much, and there's another way. I want to get the driver out. One moment. I have a vise on the bench. It's just outside of the view of the camera. I'll see if I can grab this and put enough torque on it to unscrew it. Or to break it free at least. Nope, I just egged it. Let's see if I can do it again. Smashing the threads up pretty good. It's a cheap way of doing it, but it's very efficient. There we go. Even though I didn't get it off with the vise, I was able to distort it enough that I could get a gap to place the screwdriver tip. There we go. You can see it's not round anymore. And then there's the bottom of the driver, which is held in with a dab of resin or glue. All we're doing at the moment is trying to break the glue free so I can get the driver out without hopefully damaging the LED. Alright, let's see what else we can do. Alright, good. Didn't realize that the little light was flashing that says the battery was dying. I had to plug it in real quick. I think we saved it. slowly breaking free. Oops. Try not to damage the components. Yeah, these are some of the things he didn't show you on his video due to probably time constraints and safety. Even though it's not plugged in, inside here is a capacitor that could give you a nasty little zap if you touch it. Which is why I'm not touching the metal parts of any of my tools, in case it still has a charge. There we go. So, that is a little driver that takes the 120 volt AC. Yeah, because this will actually take 85 to 265 volts. I guess it goes that way. And converts it down to apparently 3. So. This is still a good driver. 120 volt, 3 volt driver, so I'm not going to get rid of it. I'm going to put it away for now. I have exposed the ends of the light itself, and I'm going to turn on my voltmeter, or 3 volt power generator. Whew, can't speak. And it's at 3 volts. And it says it's drawing approximately 1/5 of an amp. It's bouncing back and forth between 0.15 and 0.25. So it's averaging out to about 0.2 at 3 volts. So this thing is drawing, we're going to say, 1/5 of an amp. Because again, it's flickering. So that's why with it flickering, it changes the amperage. And it's still, turn it upside down. I don't know if you can hear it. It sounds like there's a ball bearing. That's the little sensor that tells it which way is up and which way is down. And it's right inside this blue covered. It's a switch. It's a, brain's not working at the moment. It's just a little switch that has a ball bearing that goes back and forth, that conducts electricity, tells it which way is up, which way is down. And it's covered in blue tape. So it's right there. That's what the rattling sound is. So I have a couple of these loose for other projects. So it says this is version 2.1. That's that. Version 1, if you turned it upside down, it didn't reverse. This is version 2, or Gen 2. At least that's what it said on the listing when I bought them. So next step is I need to go find myself a 3 volt battery box that can hold AA's. I have a lot of ones that hold C's and D's, but that's not fair because they have a longer lifespan. That's why they're fatter batteries. So please hold while I go find a battery box that can hold 3 volts of AA's. If not, we'll make something. Then we're going to plug it in, and then I'm just going to let it sit. And we're going to come back in 5 days and see if it still works. Alright, after hunting everything down, all I have are 4.5 volt boxes. So what we're going to do is I'm going to modify this to run on 3. 4.5 volt AA boxes, let me restate that. I have several C and D 3 volt boxes. So I'm going to modify this to run on 2 AA's. Here's the 2 AA's, and before we put them in, we'll show on the meter that they have full power. I just took them out of the package. And we're going to test it out. So the first thing is we're going to crack this box open That way you can see that there's nothing hidden inside. It is just a standard controller box for Limax. Okay, it says Limax on it right there. I guess that way. So if you don't want to plug in your unit, you can use a battery pack for a table display, so you don't have a cord running across your table. So I don't know how sought after these are, but science, we got to sacrifice one. Always one peg that never wants to pop. There we go. Yep, just snapped off. You can see how it's wired. There's nothing inside. So if I put one battery there and one battery there, .3 volts, or 3.2, 3. Yeah, I can't see with the glare. Nope, no volts. Never mind. Millivolts, not real volts. But that's because I don't have full connection, because it jumps around. So to make it work, to make sure, I need to just put a jumper across. Yeah. There's the two. Actually needs to be in this one and this one. Yeah, those two. Let's find a small piece of wire. And we're going to solder it so it's permanent. Some solder. Let it get warm. So I'm going to solder the hot and the negative by adding this jumper right here, which is now just touching. My output should be about 3.2 volts. So to prevent that jumper from falling off, that's why we're going to solder it. So what I'm doing is I'm shorting out one of the two battery slots. This is just a little flux to promote adherence in the solder. Which my soldering pen is not hot enough to do the pad. The thing about solder is the bigger your solder pad, the more heat it dissipates, which means your solder doesn't stick. this metal pad, being as large as it is dissipating a lot of heat, so we're going to use a much hotter soldering gun to allow it to stick better. Just gotta wait for it to get hot. Takes a couple seconds. Clean off the tip. Got a nice bead. And then stays. Yeah. So if you're doing something that has a big amount of heat dissipation, you're going to need a hotter soldering iron. The gun soldering irons like this Weller, they work really good. They get really hot. I think this one's 160, 200 water. I have to look. The only problem is that the wire gets hot too, which probably should have used a pair of needle nose or something to hold it. Because, oh yeah, this thing's toasty. But there you go. Oh, 125 watt. So, and they cool down pretty fast, but not instant. So, just to show, here's the end. Center's hot, outside's ground or negative. We have 3.218 volts, which these are 1.5 volt batteries, are generally 1.6 when they're brand new, fully charged. So now we're going to take this and stick it on that, and then we're going to let it sit for a week or 5 days and see if it's still functioning. So, gonna again sacrifice for science. The reason I'm pulling the batteries out is I should have done it before. Is that when you cut this, you can create an arc that goes across, which can damage the batteries. But since we're going to strip and solder, I don't want the heat going backwards into the actual battery compartment. And technically, if this works, you can add a resistor on here, still keep it 4.5 volts, but with the resistor, it will lower the power consumption down and give you a little bit more time than just 3 volts. But we're going to basically do it the same way that Adam did it. Not that I don't believe what he does, he just didn't show the whole process due to, again, probably safety concerns. So I'm going to tin some wires. Since I already have this soldering iron out, I'm just going to use this. Since both ends are white, I'm going to see which one of these is the hot, which one's the negative. The long wire is the positive side. And to ensure we don't get any arcing, I'm just going to heat shrink it all. use my mutated self-helping hands. I guess we can cut some of the long length off. So. And that's what I thought. With the batteries, it doesn't have enough amperage to power it. I don't know if he's using a different model, but I am not getting enough juice to make it do its thing. There we go. Alright. So it is currently January 1st. Happy New Year, 2020. It is 12:55 local time in Arizona. So I will just heat shrink this on. I'm going to keep the batteries hooked up. In his video, he used a torch and heat shrink, and then he also used wire nuts, but he also put a switch in it. I'm not putting a switch in because I'm not doing it to build a lantern. I'm doing it to see if you can actually run this light for as long as he says on AA batteries. Here we go. There should be. Put some tools away. So, in his video, he makes a reference that they had it running for 5 days. So that means if that's true, then on January 6th, at around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, this should still be on. So I guess I'll see you whenever it dies, or I'll see you on the 6th. So I'm just going to leave it just like this. I'm not going to leave it in the middle of my bench, as I do have other projects I need to work on, such as a battery monitor. Again, it's kind of in the way of my soldering iron and power supply. But we are going to, I'm going to set it off to the side, and I'll probably do day 2 pictures or 12 hours from now or what have you to see what it's still doing. And then if it works, then you know if you get one of these fire lights, you can make it run on 3 volt. I would probably use something bigger than a AA pack myself for longevity. C packs aren't that expensive. C batteries generally are more expensive than D's, but it depends on what you're doing. This might come in handy for some model making or heck, cosplay. And this style light with the solder seams right here, you can technically unsolder those 2 seams, open this up flat, and make a flat panel. So like a little flat panel of fire, like a little 6-inch or 4-inch flaming disc. How big is this panel? This panel is about 3 3¼ inches. And each one of these squares is an inch. So yeah, you get like a little glass panel, stick it behind it, put it in a frame, you can have yourself a flat panel flame. Which we might do to this light after it's 5 days. We might take this and turn it into something else. Because the one he used had a dome top. This has got a divot. I'm not a big fan of the divot. Kind of looks like a donut. It's hard to tell, but anyhow, see you with the updates. Thanks for watching. It has been 20 minutes, and I wanted you to see the glow without any of the lights on in the laboratory here. A little diffuser, so it's not so bright, but she's going pretty strong. But we're only at 20 minutes, so, but it does look pretty good with the battery, so we're going to keep testing it. But this was just a little addendum so you can see it in a low light situation, that it is actually pretty bright. So maybe Adam Savage is correct that it'll last 5 days. I have my doubts, but I could be wrong. Because this is drawing what one battery puts out. The average AA pulls 2400 milliamps at the max, and this is pulling 2000 milliamps on average, because like I said, it bounces. The higher the lights go up, the more power it draws. So every time it goes up, it's spiking the batteries. I'm thinking this thing should last about 2.5 days, not 5. But again, that's why we're doing it. We're going to see if the tested 1-day build is accurate, and then at that point I'm going to take this and turn it into something different. I'm not going to make a lantern like he did. I'm going to try something slightly different. Maybe somebody will enjoy it and make their own. Maybe they won't know, but we're going to try something else. So stay tuned. Of course, for you it'll be just seconds. For me it'll be days. So enjoy. It is currently 56 hours and 30 minutes since this battery pack one's been put in. I have a 3-volt power supply powering this one, and this is still on the same battery pack right there. We're halfway. You can definitely see the power difference or the brightness difference. It is still working, but as I was saying, I can't imagine it running 5 days. I'd say that's about half the intensity. I'll turn off the 3-volt. And it is working. But in Adam Savage's video, he said he got 5 days out of it. We're at 56 hours, which is just shy of halfway to 5 days. 5 days is about 120 hours. So we're going to keep going. I'm going to go until this thing can't even power anymore. We'll see exactly how long it goes from full charge. So this battery pack over here was 3.2 volts, brand new, Duracell batteries, standard, not their long life, extra power, none of that other stuff. They're just standard copper tops. 3 volts directly to the light. We're at 56 hours, 30 minutes. So it still does give you a glow. It still does work. But as you can tell, the difference is intensity between that one, which is at 3 volts, 3.2 to be exact. That way it's at the same power this one started at. You can see that there's a huge intensity difference. And the camera is swamped out a little bit from the brighter one. But this is definitely losing its juice. So, but we're going to keep going. We're going to see if we can get this thing to still be flashing like this at 5 days on 2 standard batteries. So, I guess I'll be talking to you in 2.5 more days. Alright, we're back. We're at 3 days, 5 hours, 20 minutes, and the candle light is no longer candlelight. If you notice, it's now just pulsating. This is low power mode, meaning that the batteries do not have enough power to make the computer chip actually do its cycling. So 3 days is about all you're going to get. Adam Savage says his went 5 or more. Unless he's using like extended life batteries, or they're actually turning it off, I can't see how. My calculations using what it was pulling on my power meter versus what the average battery puts out was about 2.5 days, which is 62 hours. This has gone, well, beyond that. It's gone 77. But I cannot see it doing 120. So, unless he did something different that I didn't notice in his video, 3 days at 3 volts. Just to show you, it says right there, 6/17, January 4. So, it's been doing this for a couple of minutes now. Battery test shows the voltage is extremely low. We'll flip the light on. And we're going to pull out the meter. We'll set it to the volts. We have, no, it did say 2.5 volts a second ago. There we go, 2.57 volts. Usually around 1.2 volts is a dead battery on a AAA. So the reason it's not off is because it's still 0.1 and a half or 0.2 volts higher than what a AA would be considered dead. So it's no longer a flame light, now it's a pulsating light due to the fact of low power. So I'm going to flip on the power supply to show you that it actually does still function. So we got 3 volts on my power supply, so we don't pop a battery, because that would be bad. Pop a battery by backfeeding it. I'll just clip it on, make life easy. There we go. And there's a flame light. If you give it power and it's too quick, like on off like I just did, the whole thing turns on solid. So if you flick your light switch off when it threads into your wall socket, you're going to do the same thing. Just turn it off, give it a second, turn it back on. I believe what it is one of the little capacitors on here doesn't discharge properly to reset the microchip right there. The only thing I had a problem with on his video was just that. I do like the design. As you can see, I put the battery back in. And it doesn't have enough power even to start the flicker. It is so dead. There we go. Just a little bit more juice. Apparently the battery had enough time to recharge. So I'll leave this overnight and we'll see if it even stays on throughout the night. Because as you saw, it's a little after 6. So we'll check it again tomorrow. But no way you can get 5 days out of this. So I'll let you know when it completely goes out. Alright, it's been 5 days and 9 hours. So technically it will work for 5 days. Except it's extremely dim. And I mean extremely dim. Also, at day 3, it went into low power mode. By jump starting it with a power supply, it gave it enough juice to keep draining the batteries. So it is plausible that you can get 5 days out of it. It's almost useless because it's so dim. I'm going to turn off the light so you can get a better see. You can see more of the LEDs and less of the glow. On camera, looks pretty good, but it is extremely dim. I'm surprised it hasn't gone back into low power mode. Just to see how much juice the batteries are putting out. Let's see, I'm gonna. Got so many projects sitting on this bench at the moment. There. If it would quit sliding out of my fingers. All right. Running at 2.549 volts. 2.5 volts basically. That is a 0.7 drop off of full power. So it is plausible. It's not very bright. It's extremely dim. Still does do the invert. So, as I said, I'm going to let it run until it absolutely positively is dead. So that's probably going to be, at the rate it's dropping, another few days. So we'll be back. And we'll see exactly how much time we can get out of a lamp. Again, not very bright. In a lantern like he built, it probably isn't going to illuminate much. But I personally would have put in something bigger than the batteries that he did. He put in 2 AA's. I would have probably put in C's or D's if they fit. If not, maybe a 4.5 volt battery pack with all 3 batteries and a resistor. Or even a 9 volt and a resistor. You get a lot more longevity out of it. And possibly a port to plug in. A little barrel adapter. So you can run 3 volts off of the wall socket. Alright. Well, we'll be back at a time when this thing can no longer do anything. See you then. Alright, it is January 8th at 4:25, which is 7 days, 3.5 hours, and the batteries no longer have enough juice to make this function correctly. So it goes solid, it flickers, it flashes. So I say at 2 days, your intensity is dropped to the point where it doesn't function anymore for a light, just as a background, I guess it's still a light, but a background ambiance thing. At apparently 7 days or 1 week, it gets to the point where the computer chip doesn't get enough power to tell it to do its thing correctly. Even if I reset it, you can see it's freaking out because there's not enough power left in the batteries. The batteries, I think, are right around 2.4, 2.5 volts, so that's where it'll start freaking out. .5. So that's it. 2.5 volts and you lose your light. So 7 days, 3 hours, 30 minutes. After 2 days, it's pretty much useless for a bright light. For a background light, you'll still get a couple more days out of it. So stay tuned to what we do with it next.